Brit Schulte. Please put your hands together for her. Come on, put your hands together. Thank you, Brit.
It's an exciting time to be rallying, brothers and sisters. Don't you feel that? Don't you feel how exciting the time is? The world is changing, and people just like us are enacting that change on their own terms. We are fighting to be heard, to represent ourselves, and to say no more to this neoliberal agenda, which is, that's right, which is gutting the lives of workers here and has destroyed the lives of millions of Iraqis. We are feeling the effects of a war budget on this country. Every bomb that explodes overseas explodes here at home as well. You know, we know as of May last year that the U.S. government spent $747 billion on this war that you and I had no choice in entering. The Congressional Research Service tells us that when the government is finished, by the time they're finished with Iraq, we'll be looking at a tab of $2 trillion. I can't even fathom that money. I can't even conceive of that sum. Can you?
No.
Can you imagine that kind of money?
No.
Well, let me tell you what I can fathom, and I think you can as well. That had our government not gone to war and instead used that money and those recruited men and women to help working people, students, and the poor here at home, we'd be looking at some very different conditions. Don't you think? What I know is that every college student during this war could have gotten a full federal Pell Grant amounting $5,500 for 9 years. We could have had that. We could have had that. Or that the federal government could have done the right thing and funded low-income women's health clinics like Planned Parenthood for 6 full years. For 6 years. I also know that the cost of a small bomb is the equivalent of 2 elementary school teachers' salaries. And that the total spent on the war would have allowed for 16,427,497 elementary school teachers to keep their jobs for another year. And they're telling us there's no money. And they're telling us there's no budget for public education. You know, when I hear calls for working people to tighten their belts or to sacrifice more of their livelihood, I can't help but think of these egregious figures. And I know you can't help but think of those either. They're just slapping us in the face every day, and that's why we're here. That's why we're here standing up against this. We live in a country where our government's priorities are completely backward and dangerous to both us and the international community. We live in a country that says austerity measures are a must for the poor, for women, and for people of color because our economy is war-driven. It's profit-driven. These greedy, imperialist motives are being challenged, though. We're challenging them right here, right now. And their popularity, their tolerance is waning. It's waning. More and more people all over the world, here, at home, they're taking matters into their own hands. And they're struggling to stand against tyranny and to win democracy. From the revolutions that are sweeping North Africa and the Middle East, to the Capitol building occupations in Wisconsin, to the thousands of teachers and students and union members who marched in Austin to oppose these education cuts. Or the pro-choice men and women defending access to affordable health care clinics and rallying nationwide for abortion rights. We know these struggles are not independent from one another. We know they are connected. And they are broad-reaching. They are constantly building and growing. And these movements, these struggles that we are participating in every day, they are in direct response to the deplorable priorities the government has set for this country. But people are learning now that through struggle, they can demand better priorities. And that's also why we're here. We're going to demand that our government stop wasting our resources.
That's right.
Our very livelihood here at home depends on it, let alone the millions of people who have already been devastated by war and occupation. We must demand an end to this irrationality, this system that perpetuates these kinds of crises. And now, more than ever, we must realize that change will not come down from on high, but instead it must be fought for from below. Venceremos! We're going to win this one! mic, and then we're going to have some more speakers. So I'm going to turn it back over to Fatune. Thanks for being out here, everybody.
Come here. Give her a round of applause. With somebody like Brit, I have hope for this great country of ours. Because they say often the empty barrels are the loudest, but I think we are going to start encouraging the real citizens of this country to come out and speak. I'll do another song for you, and this one Bob Marley called Redemption Song. You see, slavery sometimes is in the head. While we live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, but